home and give me wings to fly. We can be alone in the castle in the sky. We can run away and leave this world behind. Please just take me home to a castle in the sky. Castle in the sky. Won't you take me We can run away and leave this world behind. Please just take me home to a castle in the sky. Castle in the Won't you take me home and give me wings to fly? We can be alone in the castle in the sky. We can run away and leave this world behind. Please just take me home to a castle in the sky. Castle in the sky.
I'm Tim Ellis. Thank you for joining us for Laneway Live. As you would have heard the news today, the 2020 Melbourne Magic Festival will not be going ahead. However, this gives us an extra 12 months to make sure that all of the events that we had planned for this year will go ahead next year, bigger and better. And that includes our international guests, one of whom I'm about to chat to right now. This performer has some of the most amazing, devastating magic you have ever seen. Please welcome Mahdi Gilbert. So Mahdi, where are you right now?
I am at home. I'm in Toronto. I am in quarantine.
So you're living near Michael Close.
Not too close, but close enough.
You're close to close.
Yeah, close to close.
But even at the moment, if you were next door, you wouldn't be able, you'd have to visit him by Zoom. That would be it.
Yeah. Well, it's great that we live in a city together, and we actually have some pretty good magicians here in Toronto who I get to see from time to time. I haven't seen any of them. It's funny, one of my good friends who we're always in different places around the world. We never get to see each other. And right now, we're both in Toronto, but we can't see each other. So
it's challenging. It's challenging. So how are you surviving with these quarantine times?
Oh, I'm doing good. I feel good. I am, I usually like to be active. I like to be moving. And unfortunately, everything's closed, all the gyms and, swimming pools, fitness centers. So it's kind of a new way of living for me to be stagnant. I don't think it's very healthy, to be quite honest. But,
You don't have a home gym or anything there? You get set up? A few volumes
Well,
of barbell or something like that?
yeah, but it's like I understand why prisoners don't work out too much. They have the gym and stuff in the prison, but sometimes you just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
You have no motivation.
It's a bit like that with cruise ships, actually. You're on a cruise ship for a week or two, and there's the gym, there's everything there, and you end up staying in your room just watching the movies.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things. When I'm traveling and doing shows and stuff, I force myself now to do exercise at the hotels because you can get into this bad mood, this bad habit where you're just traveling somewhere and then you're so exhausted when you get there because you're working, you're flying, you're taking the train, whatever, that you at the end of the night you just want to crash, and then in the morning you have to leave, you have to do all this stuff, and you really don't take care of your health. So it's something that I've forced myself to do. I should realistically do it while I'm at home as well. So hopefully I'll get the motivation to do that. We'll see.
Very hard finding motivation at the moment. I know.
I know, it's hard.
So for the people who have not encountered you before, can you give us just a little bit of a background of how you got into magic?
So I've always been interested in magic since I was a kid, but I never really saw it growing up. It was something that was on TV and stuff, but I didn't get to see much of it that way. But I would always hear about it. I remember there would be kids at school talking about it, and I always knew what the concept of magic was because you see it in movies, you see it in different art forms, so you know what it is even if you never get to see anybody perform it in front of you. So ever since I was a kid, I always was fascinated just with the idea of it, and I love the idea of somebody who could just do anything. And for me, that was a very powerful idea. That's what I wanted to do. That's who I wanted to be. And when I became, as I got older, I saw a person who was doing stuff different than other magicians. He was doing stuff with memory and his mind and hypnosis and suggestion. This was a man called Darren Brown. I had no idea who he was, but I thought, wow, I don't have hands, so maybe I can't do the sleight of hand stuff. Maybe I can't do, the stuff that David Copperfield is doing. I don't even know where to begin with all that stuff. But Darren Brown sort of opened a pathway for me to learn magic, and I started becoming very interested in that mental field of magic, and then just slowly got into it that way.
Wow, I didn't realize that Darren was such an influence on you.
Yeah, for sure he was. And yeah, for the first few years of doing this stuff, I only did mentalism. A lot of people don't know that I only did mentalism, so it's quite different than what I do nowadays. But I'm pretty I'm a pretty big fan of mind reading.
So what was how did you transition into sleight of hand?
Well, so I had been doing the mind reading stuff. I'd been doing psychic readings, hypnosis, all the, all this really, all this interesting stuff. But for me, it was always far away from what my mentors did. What my mentors did was beyond the imagination. They were doing stuff that you could see and you could touch. David Copperfield would get on stage and he'd make a car appear, or David Blaine, would make somebody's watch vanish from their wrist, and just all these things that were actually real. So my magic at that point for me wasn't where I wanted to be, because it was only in people's imaginations. People could imagine, what I was doing, but there wasn't anything physical happening. And so for me, I became interested in sleight of hand. I got a book on sleight of hand that people were talking about called The Expert at the Card Table. And I sat down and I started reading this book, not understanding why anybody liked it, but I started to understand the concepts, and then I would just sit in my room all night, and I would wait until everybody fell asleep, and I would just sit in the dark and practice this stuff. And actually, it's funny. One of the effects that I do in my show now, I'll send you a video of this so you can play for the audience. It's actually me performing this piece of magic, which is a piece of magic called Triumph. But when I perform it, I do tell this real story of me staying up all night, practicing in my room, dropping the cards being mixed. So it's pretty fascinating.
Well, let's take a look at it right now.
Jeanette, do you want to learn how this works? Yes, do it. You guys want to learn how it works?
Yes.
When I was starting out in magic, I couldn't do anything with a deck of cards. Now I shuffle, I do all this stuff, I lie. I became very bad.
Do me a favor, cut anywhere you want. And which pile do you prefer, this one or this one? Pick it up and turn it face up and spread the cards like this, and I'll spread these face down. Yeah, turn it over. And it's about half the cards face up, about half the cards face down. And you cut wherever you wanted, right?
Yes.
When I was starting out in Magic, I couldn't do anything with a deck of cards. So I would wait until everybody in my house went to sleep, and then I would sit in the dark and I would try to come up with things that I could do. But in the beginning I couldn't do anything. So every single night I would drop the cards, and every single morning when the sun would rise, the cards would be mixed, face up and face down. It would be a complete mess, sort of like this. And this isn't you know, a perfect shuffle. It was if it was a perfect shuffle, the cards would be interlaced like 1 to 1, and but you know, you understand. I'm not good at math, but you understand, right? But the cards would be a complete mess with cards face up and cards face down every single night, every single night. And so, but every single night I would try, and every single morning I would see and I would have the same result. That is with cards face down, and I would have cards face up. Cards in every single direction. Slowly I learned how to shuffle, and I learned how to cut. I learned how to do all the things that magicians need to do. But even though I learned how to do this, I would still have the same result, because it was, you know, it was impossible for me to do magic. So every single night the cards would remain with cards face up and cards face down, cards in every single different position. Do me a favor, hold out your hands. I'll put one here and one here, and I can't recreate the darkness of my room, but bring your hands together, and I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and everybody in the audience close your eyes as well, because I can't turn out the lights. Every single night the cards would be mixed, face up, face down, face up, face down, face up, face down, face up, face down, every single night. Until the night that I became a magician. On that night the sun rose. Open your eyes. Did I touch you?
No.
Did I touch the cards?
No.
Did the cards move?
No.
The cards were just mixed, face up, face down, face up, face down, face up, face down, the whole way through. Open your hand. Every single card is now face down. Look through the deck. Every single card is now face down. Show everybody. Every single card is now face down. Every single card. But wait, except for one card. Exactly your famous card.
Did you have to create your own methods for doing Triumph?
Well, you know, it's a classic plot in magic, and there's many ways to do it. So for people who know the effect and know the method, that's, you know, Dai Vernon's method that he's published in Stars of Magic, you'll see mine, and you'll be able to see similarities. I've added my own touches to stuff in terms of the turnover, in terms of an additional fall shuffle, which I believe is unique to me. One of the sequences, well, a lot of the stuff in it is unique to me, but yeah, it's most of my magic is based on classic stuff, and I think most of magic in general, it's based on classic things. I think a lot of times in magic, there's this idea of an effect, like the spirit of the effect, what people imagine it to be, and I think that's what exists for so many plots in magic. And then when we see the real thing of how it's performed, we're often disappointed by it because it's far away from what we imagine. You know, for example, if you think of the plot of the Rising card, such a beautiful idea. It's a magical idea. You know, when you actually just close your eyes and you imagine it, you imagine it in the most magical way possible. And then what happens, you go see it in real life, and it's like, ugh, you know,
I think
it's got problems structurally
I think we can
in
blame
a lot of cases.
the magic catalogs for that. Where
Well,
you look in the magic catalogs and you see these amazing descriptions, and often in the old catalogs you see little cartoons of people standing there doing the trick, and it looked impossible. And I used to read the Tannen's catalog, and I'd have to invent my own tricks based on the drawings. And when I finally bought the tricks, I'm like, oh, my version's much better than this.
well, one of the scary things about magic is the better a piece of magic is, and the more successful it is, the more often that it's imitated. And then when it is imitated, the quality of it goes down. And then after a while, generation and generations, people are only familiar with the imitation. So people sort of can't imagine what the original effect was like. And that original effect is there, but then we are usually only exposed to a diluted version of it.
Easy version.
Yeah.
I think that's where you've got to go back to the books.
Yeah, go back to the books, and I would say read everything. And one of my favorite books, I don't know where I have it. It's somewhere. My desk is a mess. One of my favorite books is the Hofzinser book by Ottokar Fischer, translated by S.H. Sharp. And a lot of people don't like it, and Magic Christian did a much better translation with the original source material. But the thing that I like about S.H. Sharp's version is that it's lacking so many details. And so you read it and you really got to pay attention, and you got to figure it out, and you actually have to experiment. And I think a lot of that is lacking from magic. One of the effects that I do in my show is the vanishing coin. It's a very old trick, and nobody. It's in all the old magic books, and I'm not into exposing magic, but basically, it uses a little gimmick, and you hold a coin over, you wrap a coin in a handkerchief, and you hold it over a glass, and then you drop that coin into the glass, and the coin vanishes. You pull off the handkerchief and the coin's gone. For anybody who knows anything about magic, you know what I'm talking about, probably. So this is an effect that's been in a lot of old magic books. I remember first reading about it in Sack's Sleight of Hand, and I remember talking to different magicians because none of what they were suggesting in these old books were working. It was like people just heard about the effect, they knew about it, so they're like, okay, well, we'll just we'll make the gimmick out of this little plastic thing, or we'll make and they got the worst solutions that don't work. And it doesn't work when you actually try it out and you compare it to what's written in the book. And so I talked to guys who actually did a lot of stuff with coins. I remember talking to David Roth about it, and David Roth had worked on it. How did you go about making this little gimmick that you need in the routine? Oh, well, I went down to this person and I gave them these measurements, and then they made it out of,
Whatever.
glass, or sapphire instead of plastic. Okay, interesting. Let me go try that. And then me tracking down the right materials, the right props, and you put it together. And it's unbelievable. It's one of the highlights of my show. And it's funny now. This is a trick that everybody knows. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. I think everybody knows. But this is a trick that when magicians come see my show, they steal it. It's the number one thing that people steal right now. I mean, every single thing I do, people see it. But this is the thing now that they steal. And so people were stealing it so much, anyways. But I'm happy that people are rediscovering this material. Do it the right way. Actually, we're learning so many stuff in our journey in magic. So many good effects, so much good magic but we don't realize it because we don't actually use it. We just, we read it. Okay, we got that idea. It's in our, it's in our knowledge base. Let's go on to the next thing. You end up doing that year after year, and you can know everything there is to know about magic and not really know anything because you haven't, done it. So
I'm a
I think,
secret collector.
yeah, so I think a lot of it has to do with actually making this stuff work, doing it for real people. For me, that's where the magic becomes real. That's where it becomes magic that actually makes sense. Magic doesn't make sense working on it alone at home in your room. That's a part of it, but a bigger part is making that magic experience live for your audience.
That's why it's so
bring that
frustrating
piece
for
of
you at
magic.
the moment.
Yeah, well, and I've had friends who in different markets. So, I have colleagues who work in some of the same markets that I work in. And so we've all had shows canceled because of the pandemic. Nobody's going into any theaters right now. And some of these people that I know, they've made arrangements to do their show online. And I was thinking about it because we all it is a big blow to lose your salary. Nobody's no performer. Most performers right now are not making any money. They're not doing any events. So it was something I thought about. But then I looked at what I was doing, the way that I was interacting with people in my show, and I thought, for me, my personal opinion right now is I can't charge what I usually charge for the experience and I can come up with a lot of stuff, for video. I can do, I've done magic over the telephone. I've done magic over the radio. You can do a lot of stuff, but for me, I didn't feel right charging for my regular show and then doing a show over webcam. But some people are doing it. I think it's interesting. It's certainly an area that I'd like to explore. And I think there's interesting things that we can do with it, but I need more time. Maybe if the virus really gets out of control and, we're stuck for like 5 years or 10 years, I'll,
Then you pull the trigger and say, all right, I'm going to do it now.
Yeah, then I'll bite it.
That's what's going to take. Well, the good thing about the magic up close like this is you do get true close-up magic. I mean, everyone gets a seat at the table.
Yeah, everybody, and it's one of the things. So when I perform in theaters and stuff, a lot of the material that I'm doing is close-up material. Not all of it. It depends on what I'm doing. But I do work with a camera and projector in my show, and it's always, wherever you're going as a performer, you're always trying to work hard and fight for the audience and make sure that everybody has great visibility, great clarity. And you don't really have a problem with that with the video. But for me, one of the problems with the video is it's static. And I think it's not good for people's attention spans because, we're not used to, in a show, you don't realize it, but you're looking around, you're relaxing, maybe you're laughing, you're throwing your head back, maybe, you have a lot of stuff going on, or you can look down from the person's hand, you can look at their face, they make a comment. On video, it's different. Everything is sharp. There's nothing blurry. Everything's sharp altogether. So, with our natural vision, wherever we're looking is sharp, and there's like a bubble, and then it slowly gets blurry or outside of that bubble. On video, you don't have that. Everything's sharp. So it's a lot harder to do certain things on video, for example.
Speaking of that, can we have a little look at one of your live clip tricks again that you've recorded?
Yeah, what do you want to see?
Your choice. What should we look at? What's your favorite?
I will let's look at this one.
Take any one you want from the pack and show it around, make sure everybody sees it. I'm part of everyone. So,
Are you too?
I get to see it. Is that okay? You like it?
I like it.
You want to keep it or you want a different one?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Can I have it back?
Sure.
Do me a favor, take the Sharpie, and let's make sure, can everybody see this with the camera and everything? Because there's a lot of people here, I want to make sure everybody sees. Take the card and sign it, not on the back of the card, but on the face, in big letters so everybody can see. There's a camera there, just don't worry, just
Okay. So what am I doing?
you're putting a signature, or you can put, you know, a smiley face, or whatever drawing you want.
Okay.
Have you ever signed a card before?
No. First time.
Let's do it like this. The Jack of Diamonds. Do me a favor, hold out your hand.
Okay.
No, both hands, both hands. I'll put the card, open. I'll put the card in your hand and put the other hand on top, so it's like a sandwich, and hold it.
Okay.
And we'll use the next card, the 3 of Hearts.
Okay.
Watch, if I take the 3, and I rub it, did you know that magic is real?
I believe you.
Because if I rub, you feel that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your card jumps from your hand on top. Now I have your card with your signature.
Okay.
And if I have your card with your signature, look inside your hand, what do we have?
Yo.
So I can see the difference. I mean, when you have the audience members there interacting, it's so much stronger because you get their reactions. But let me put it to you this way. I did an online Zoom show the other night, and it was for a 50th birthday, a friend of mine's 50th birthday, and the people didn't know I was coming. And the interesting thing afterwards was they said these people would never go to a magic show. They're not interested. But when they saw it happening, they were just stunned. They're like, oh, we've never seen anything like this before. So I guess in a way, it is a way to reach new audiences who wouldn't otherwise go to a magic show.
Look, I think a lot of people have either had no experience or bad experiences with magic. And I know this is anecdotal evidence, but I've working in different situations, you have to go up to people sometime. Oh, can I show you something? Oh, you do magic? People could not care. You could be Juan Tamariz. You could be David Blaine. You could be any. It's funny, in the old David Blaine TV show, they have bloopers in the show where he's going up to, hey, can I show you something? They're like, oh, get lost. Like, they're not interested. People don't really have any high expectations. It's one of the things that I hear the most from people. Wow, I never knew that magic could be this way. I never knew that it could be this way. So I think a lot of people don't have experience with magic, and it's part of our duty as magicians to always do the best job that we can do and make people love magic for the rest of their lives. Because to be quite honest, there's a lot of people who are out there who are performing for people who, and I don't want to name names. I could, but I don't want to name names. But there's people who, people go see their shows and they never want to go see a magic show again. They think magic is stupid. The magician made fun of me. The magician, because a lot of people perform in ways that are demeaning to people. So I think our job is to bring it in front of people who have never experienced it before and really blow their mind. I always assume that when I'm performing magic for people, I'm the best that they're ever going to see. Like, I don't think, I don't think that's an egotistical thing. I'm just like, okay, I have one chance. I want to really make them believe in magic.
Yeah.
And hopefully if I'm doing a show in town, they'll come see the show. Or if another magician's doing the show, hopefully it's a good magician, they'll go see the show and support it. So that's how I look at it.
Well, I think it's great. You know, the attitude is that you want to give them a unique experience and something they've never had before, and something's going to uplift them. But your whole story of your journey into magic is inspirational in itself.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I'm doing in my show right now is I'm incorporating my story more, and I'm doing it in effects. And you'll see it when if you see some of the video clips of my show that we're putting up here.
I'll put some more links to them down at the bottom too.
Yeah, so one of the things that I do primarily when I'm performing magic is it's very much focused on the audience, because I believe in the audience. You know, you bring people up on stage, they're so much more entertaining than we are sometimes. We've all seen that scenario where, you know, a performer brings an audience member up on stage, and they're either so quirky or defiant or, you know, whatever,
Hmm.
they end up stealing the show. And for me, I always want to give people that opportunity. So my magic's always based around other people. But then I incorporate some of my own stories uh, into the magic. And it's always a balancing act, because, you know, you don't want it to, like, for me personally, I don't want it to be, you know, too much of biography, but I want it to have biographical elements in it.
Because people love people.
Yeah, and so that's what I try to do in my show. And you know, well, we can put the link up. So I was performing one of the effects that I performed on Penn Teller's Fool Us, my oil and water, in this show. And before I perform it, I always like to talk about Renee Levon. I like just to talk about magic in general, what it means to me. And you'll see in that show, I mean, you can't see it in the show, but you can hear it. You know, and it happens to me. I got a standing ovation before I even performed the effect. And, you know, I think that's what the goal of, you know, it can be, the stuff that we do can be so much more than just amazing people or shocking them or getting a reaction. We can really connect with people. You remember things that mean things to you. We all have a favorite movie. We all have a favorite book, or maybe a childhood story that we heard, and we carry with us for the rest of our lives, because there's meanings in it, and we get meaning from it, and we want to, you know, it helps us in our lives, and it just becomes a part of us. That's what inspiration is. You know, it's actually a part of breathing. You're breathing something in. It's becoming a part of you. That's what inspiration is. That's what I tried to do. Just, you know, give them more than, you know, trick.
Well, we are looking forward to seeing you down here in Australia as soon as this pandemic is finished. Hopefully next year's Melbourne Magic Festival, you'll be here giving us that experience live and in person.
Oh, hopefully
Maybe
we'll all be alive.
maybe the 2021 festival, 22. We don't know how many festivals we're going to have to cancel while this is going on, but hopefully,
Well,
hopefully we'll
look,
be back live with magic soon.
I think what we'll do is we'll wait about 9 months. We'll see what happens, and then if it looks like we need more protection, we can start putting some of the funds into full gas masks and, you know, suits, and we can do it that way.
And the
We'll try.
audience can sit in the seats with the full gas mask
Yeah,
suits.
we can have each audience member in like a glass tube with an oxygen tank, and
Finally, a use for my smoke chamber illusion.
yeah.
Well,
The great.
you also do have something, a product you've brought out or are bringing out,
What is that?
a special bandana.
Oh yeah, so that's, you know, well, look, I have my own line of playing cards. Let's see, I have a few of them. Grab some of this. I have this deck that I did, which is my first deck, Hidden Leaves, and I did all the artwork on that. I have this deck, which is inspired by Charles T. Jordan, which is a you know, very well-known magician. I published a lot of stuff. But anyways, I have all the artwork that I create, and you know, when I saw that what people were doing with the bandanas and the face coverings and all that stuff, I thought maybe I'll make one and send it out. Make a few. I don't know how many, and if it does get to the point where we do have to wear the stuff to go out, which it might be looking like we have to, you can at least do it somewhat fashionably. And but right now I am working on that. It's a little troubling right now with the shipping and everything because of everything's backlogged. And then I have my playing cards in a factory, not a factory, in a warehouse in the U.S. So they're still shipping stuff out. And then maybe I'll get these bandanas made and then ship them from my home. Maybe I'll do it from the warehouse. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Well,
but
the bottom line is we're going to put a link down there so people can contact you and order all of your merchandise to keep you busy while you're sitting there in quarantine,
well, you
and
guys
keep
can
you
do
employed.
it. For the last few years, I've been doing a video series online talking about magic. I have a book club. I have a series of magic group. And I've done a ridiculous amount of videos over the last few years. I think I have over 50 hours or something crazy. Just me talking about magic. It's so much that you'll be done with magic after you hear everything. But you'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot. But you'll be done. You'll be like, okay. It's funny because the more you listen to me talk about magic, the more you incorporate my philosophy. It's almost like brainwashing. You almost join like a cult.
The Mahdi cult. Mahdi cult. All
Yeah,
right.
no, it's amazing. When people come to my lectures and my workshops, they're like, oh, I've been doing it this way for years, but I like your way so much better. And then they do everything. And I love for people to just accept my ideas as being better.
I think we all like that.
Yeah, I don't know, because I work hard on this stuff, and then I like to be able to, because it's one of those things where you don't really understand an idea at a high level unless you can communicate it. And for me, it's one of the challenges that I set to myself, to not only learn things, but then to be able to effectively communicate ideas, because there's a lot of people that have ideas, and then you have, everybody with their different ideas. Everyone's out of touch with each other. And we see that divisiveness, so much today and everything, politics and religion and the virus, like everybody's arguing because people have their ideas, they're not able to effectively communicate them. So it's an area that I'm fascinated with.
Well, we will put the links down there, as I said. So hopefully, fingers crossed, you can come along to the festival next year, and everyone who supports the festival will already be indoctrinated into the Mahdi cult, because we've had a year in which to absorb all of your information through your 50 hours of talking.
Yeah, we can set up like a cult clubhouse in Australia. Like, I'm joking. No,
It'll
I'm
happen.
joking.
We'll do it.
But no, I love talking to people. I love learning different stuff. And I was actually quite sad when you told me that it was canceled. I mean, obviously I understand why, but I was very much looking forward to coming to Australia. There's a great magic history in Australia.
There is indeed. We will hopefully have you down next year, as I said, but fingers crossed there will also be a lot of information you'll be able to learn while you're down here with the State Library. We have the Alma collection, and they have an exhibit that's scheduled, was going to be happening end of this year, but fingers crossed it will actually be happening while you're here. So
yeah, hopefully. It's funny. I hope that's the case. I have bad luck with these things. So a year ago, was it a year? Maybe 2 years ago, I was in London doing a show, and I got sick with a flu, very bad flu. I actually ended up in the hospital, same hospital that Boris Johnson's in right now, St. Thomas in London. Anyways, they had an exhibit at the British Library. I believe it was the British Library, all about magic. And I was so sick that even though I was in London for 2 weeks, I never went. And it kills me to this day. And then, get this, here in Toronto, where I am, the Art Gallery of Ontario had a huge collection of magic posters on display. I was supposed to go to that too, but then all this stuff happened and I missed that as well. So, third time's a charm, hopefully.
Let's look at it this way. If you came this year, you wouldn't have got to see the Alma collection. Maybe next year you will, and everything will work out perfectly. So we look forward
Hopefully.
to catching you next year. Thank you so much for talking with us. And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
you're going to have a lot more Mahdi fans who are going to be learning a lot from you and be very, very well prepared to ask some fantastic questions when you finally get here in person.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.